Welcome back. Thank you for choosing full chapter videos. Keep watching, and if you have not yet subscribed my channel, please do it so that you will not miss any of the important videos that are being uploaded. Once again, welcome to Economics chapter 3, Money and Credit. Money is a fascinating subject and full of curiosities. The history of money and how various forms of money were used at different times is an interesting story. What is money? We all engage in various economic activities in our everyday life. We buy and sell different goods and services. Money can be defined as anything that acts as a medium of exchange, store of value, and unit of accounting to facilitate the economic activities and transactions. Example, currency. It includes paper notes and coins, demand deposits, and bankers' check. The use of money spans a very large part of our everyday life. You can easily identify several transactions involving money in our day-to-day life. In some transactions, goods are being bought and sold with the use of money. We not only buy or sell goods, in some transactions, services are exchanged with money. For example, we require a hairdresser to cut our hair, a doctor to cure us, a tailor to stitch our clothes, a cobbler for mending our shoes, etc. These are a few examples of services that satisfy our wants. Both goods and services satisfy human wants. All these transactions are exchanged with money. Why transactions are made in money? It is because money acts as an intermediate in the exchange process. It is called a medium of exchange. A person holding money can easily exchange it for any commodity or service that he or she might want. We all have heard about barter system. It is an old method of exchange which has been used for centuries before money was invented. In barter system, people exchanged services and goods for other services and goods in return. The value of bartering items can be negotiated between the people who exchange the things. Barter system has many difficulties. Lack of double coincidence of wants is a major issue in barter system. For example, a shoemaker wants to sell shoes in the market and buy wheat. He would have to look for a wheat growing farmer who not only wants to sell wheat but also wants to buy shoes in exchange. This is known as double coincidence of wants. It simply means that what a person decides to sell is exactly what the other person wishes to buy. Double coincidence of wants is an essential feature in a barter system because goods are directly exchanged without the use of money. Then, lack of common measure of value is another problem in this system. Even if the two people who want each other's goods meet by coincidence, the problem arises in deciding the proportion in which the goods should be exchanged because there is no common measure of value. Another difficulty is the lack of divisibility. In the absence of a common medium of exchange, a problem arises when a big indivisible commodity is to be exchanged for a smaller commodity. For example, if the price of a cow is equal to 5 sheep, then a person having 1 sheep cannot exchange it for a cow. If a household wants to sell his cow and get in exchange cloth equal to the value of half of his cow, he cannot do so without killing his cow. Thus, lack of divisibility of goods makes barter exchange impossible. Money was invented by the society in order to overcome the above disadvantages of the barter system. How does the use of money make it easier to exchange things? In an economy where money is in use, it acts as a medium of exchange. Money overcomes the inefficiencies of the barter system. It eliminates the need for double coincidence of wants. Once the shoemaker has exchanged his shoes for money, he can purchase wheat or any other commodity in the market. The use of money makes it easier to exchange things because it is accepted as a medium of exchange. It serves as a unit of value and it solves the problem of double coincidence of wants. Let us look at the modern forms of money. Ancient Indians were the earliest issuers of coins in the world. Before the introduction of coins, a variety of objects such as grains and cattle were used as a medium of exchange. Thereafter came the use of metallic coins such as gold, silver, copper coins, etc. Modern forms of money includes currency of paper notes and coins. Although modern currency is without any use of its own, it is accepted as a medium of exchange because the currency is authorized by the government of a country. The history of Indian currency has a fascinating story. The rupee in our pocket has a mysterious past. The first Indian coins were punch-marked coins which were minted in the 6th century BC by Mahajanapadas of ancient India. What is the currency of our country? The rupee is widely accepted as a medium of exchange in our country. The Reserve Bank of India was formally set up in 1935 and was empowered to issue Government of India notes. RBI issues currency notes on behalf of the central government. Is there any other form in which we can hold money? Yes, we can. The other form in which people hold money is as deposits with banks. People need only some currency for their day-to-day needs. What do people do with their extra cash? People deposit their extra cash with the banks by opening a bank account in their name. Banks accept the deposits and also pay an amount as interest on the deposits. In this way, people's money is safe with the banks and it earns an amount as interest. The deposits in the bank accounts can be withdrawn on demand. These deposits are called demand deposits. Why are demand deposits considered as money? Demand deposits can be withdrawn from the bank whenever it is required. They are widely accepted as a means of payment along with the currency, thus they are considered as money. How can we use demand deposits as a means of payment? We can use these demand deposits as means of payment by way of a check instead of cash. You would have heard about payments made by checks instead of cash. A check is a paper instructing the bank to pay a specific amount from the person's account to the person in whose name the check has been issued. The facility of checks makes it possible to directly settle payments without the use of money. Modern forms of money, that is currency and deposits, are linked with the modern banking system. What do the banks do with the deposits which they accept from the people? Let us see. On one side, there are the depositors who keep their money in the banks, while on the other side, there are the borrowers who take loans from these banks. Banks keep only a small proportion of their deposits as cash with themselves. These days, banks in India hold about 15% of the deposits as cash. Why? This is kept as a provision to pay the depositors who might come to withdraw money from the bank. But banks use the major portion of the deposits to extend loans. There is a huge demand for loans for various economic activities. Farmers take loans to meet the expenses of cultivation. Manufacturers need money to complete the production on time. Parents take educational loans to meet the educational expenses of their kids. People take loans to construct houses, to buy car, to start businesses, etc. Those who have surplus funds deposit it in the banks. Those who are in need of money borrow it from the banks. Thus, banks mediate between depositors and borrowers. As we have seen, banks offer interest on deposits, but they charge a higher interest rate on loans than what they offer on deposits. The difference between what is charged from borrowers and what is paid to depositors is the main source of income for banks. Two different credit situations. Credit or loan refers to an agreement in which the lender supplies the borrower with money, goods, or services in return for the promise of future payment. A large number of our transactions in our day-to-day activities involve credit in some form or the other. Let us look at two different credit situations. We will take an example here. During festival season, Salim, a shoe manufacturer, receives an order for 3,000 pairs of shoes from a large trader. He obtains credit or loan from two different sources to meet the expenses to complete the production on time. First, he asks the leather supplier to supply leather now and promises to pay him later. Second, he obtains an advance payment from the large trader for 1,000 pairs of shoes with a promise to deliver the whole order by the end of the month. At the end of the month, he is able to deliver the order, make good profit, and repay the money that he had borrowed. Here, the credit helps him to meet the ongoing expenses of production, complete his production on time, and thereby increase his earnings. In this situation, credit helps him to increase his earnings, and therefore the person is better off than before. In this example, credit plays a positive role. For another example, Swapna, a small farmer, grows groundnut on her 3 acres of land. She takes a loan from a money lender to meet the expenses of cultivation, hoping that her harvest would help her to repay the loan. But the crop fails and she was unable to repay her debt. The debt grows over the year into a large amount. She takes a fresh loan again for cultivation, but it is normal crop this year, so the earnings are not enough to cover the old loan. In Swapna's case, the failure of the crop made loan repayment impossible. She had to sell a part of the land to repay the loan. Credit, instead of helping her improve her earnings, it left Swapna in worse off. This is an example of debt trap. In this situation, credit or loan pushes the borrower into a situation from which recovery is very painful. In Salim's situation, credit helps him to increase earnings, and therefore the person is better off than before. Whether credit would be useful or not depends on the risk factors in the situation and whether there is some support in case of loss. What are the terms and conditions of the credit? Every loan agreement specifies an interest rate which the borrower must pay to the lender along with the repayment of the principal amount. In addition, lenders also demand collateral or security against loans. Collateral is an asset that the borrower owns. It can be land titles, building, vehicles, livestock, or deposits with banks. Why do lenders ask for collateral or security while lending? The borrower uses his asset as a guarantee to a lender until the loan is repaid. If the borrower fails to repay the loan, the lender has the right to sell the asset or collateral to obtain payment. Interest rate, collateral, documentation requirement, and the mode of repayment together is called the terms of credit. It may vary from one credit arrangement to another and depending on the nature of the lender and the borrower. Where do we borrow money if we are in need of it? We can borrow it from a friend, family, private money lenders, credit unions, life insurance, commercial banks, cooperative societies, etc. These various types of loans can be grouped as formal sector loans and informal sector loans. Now we are going to look at the formal sector loans and informal sector loans. When we are in need of money, we borrow it from others. We can borrow it from our family members and from our friends. Some of us borrow money from money lenders or from a bank. The loans from banks and cooperatives considered as formal sector loans. Banks and cooperative societies offer cheap credit facilities. The Reserve Bank of India supervises the functioning of formal sources of loans. The RBI monitors the banks in maintaining cash balance. The RBI says that the banks give loans not just to profit-making businesses but also to small cultivators, small-scale industries and to small borrowers, etc. Banks have to submit information to the RBI on how much they are lending, to whom, at what interest rate, etc. Besides banks, the other major sources of cheap credit are the cooperative societies. Members of a cooperative pool their resources for cooperation in certain areas. There are several types of cooperatives such as farmers cooperatives, weavers cooperatives, industrial workers cooperatives, etc. We have already discussed about cooperative sector. Cooperative societies have unique feature of joint ownership and democratic leadership. It's a voluntary association of persons whose motive is the welfare of its members. It's a form of business where individuals belonging to the same class join their hands for the promotion of their common goals. A cooperative society works on the principle of mutual help. Cooperative societies are represented and active in all sectors. It can be a farmers cooperative society, producers cooperative society, consumers cooperative society, workers cooperative society, credit unions, marketing cooperatives, housing cooperatives and so on. These are generally formed by poor people or weaker sections of society for the betterment and upliftment of their economic conditions through mutual help. Usually, business organizations have the main motive to earn profit and exploit customers. But cooperative society has a motive of service to its members for common welfare. Its aim is not profit making. This organization will function under the mutual cooperation of all the members. Cooperatives accept deposits from its members. With these deposits as collateral, the cooperatives obtain large loans from the bank. These funds are used to provide loans to its members. Once these loans are repaid, another round of lending can take place. Informal sector loans. These are the loans from money lenders, traders, employers, relatives, and friends, etc. There is no organization which supervises the credit activities of lenders in the informal sector. They can lend money at whatever interest rate they choose. There is no one to stop them from using unfair means to get their money back. Most of the informal lenders charge a much higher interest on loans. In certain cases, the amount to be repaid is greater than the income of the borrower. This could lead to increasing debt and debt trap. Also, people who might wish to start an enterprise by borrowing may not do so because of the high cost of borrowing. For these reasons, banks and cooperative societies should come up to lend more money to the people. Credit helps people from all walks of life in setting up their business, trade in goods, and increase their earnings. Credit or loans help in raising the standard of living and social status of the common man by enabling them to construct their houses, buy cars, scooters, televisions, and other products. Thus, cheap and affordable credit is crucial for the country's development. Now let us see who gets what from formal and informal credit. We can divide the urban households in 4 groups. They are poor households, households with few assets, well-off households, and rich households. If we compare the loans taken by these groups, 85% of the loans taken by the poor households are from informal sources like money lenders, whereas 90% of the rich urban households are availing cheap credit from formal lenders like banks and cooperative societies. Formal sources like bank loans require proper documents and collateral. Absence of collateral is one of the major reasons which prevents the poor from getting bank loans. Similar pattern is also found in rural areas. The formal sector meets only about half of the total credit needs of rural people. The remaining credit needs are met from informal sources. It is important that the formal credit is distributed more equally so that the poor can benefit from the cheaper loans. It is necessary that banks and cooperatives should increase their lending, particularly in rural areas, so that the dependence on informal sources of credit reduces. While the formal sector loans need to expand, it is also necessary that everyone receives these loans, because at present it is the richer households who receive formal credit, whereas the poor have to depend on the informal sources. Do you know why? Getting a loan from a bank is much more difficult than taking a loan from an informal source like a money lender. Bank loans require proper documents and collateral. On the other hand, money lenders know the borrowers personally and often willing to give a loan without collateral. However, they charge very high rates of interest. There is no one to stop them from using unfair means to get their money back. Then why should credit at reasonable rate be available? because it helps people to pay their credit without facing any difficulties. This would lead to higher incomes, and many people could then borrow cheaply for a variety of needs. It also brings an opportunity for everyone to pay the credit without much difficulty with reasonable interest rates. Cheap and affordable credits help people to improve their standard of living. We have seen that poor households are still dependent on informal sources of credit. Why is it so? Because banks are not present everywhere in rural India. Even when they are present, getting a loan is much more difficult task from a bank. As we have seen, bank loans require proper documents and collateral. To overcome these problems, people created self-help groups or SHGs. SHGs are small groups of poor people which promote small savings among their members. Simply speaking, these are small cooperative societies. A typical SHG has 15 to 20 members, usually belonging to one neighborhood, who meet and save regularly. Saving per month varies from 25 to 100 rupees or more depending upon the ability of the people. Members take small loans from these groups itself to meet their needs. The group charges interest on these loans, but this is much less than what the money lenders charges. If the group is regular in savings, it becomes eligible for availing loans from the bank. Banks provide small loans to the SHG members to create self-employment opportunities for housing materials, for acquiring assets like sewing machine, handlooms, cattle, etc. All the decisions regarding the savings, loans, the interest to be charged, repayment schedule, etc. are taken by the group members together. Any case of non-repayment of loan by any one member is followed up seriously by other members in the group. Because of this feature, banks are willing to lend loans to the poor women organized in SHGs even though they have no collateral as such. Grameen Bank of Bangladesh is one of the biggest success stories in reaching the poor rural people. Bangladeshi Grameen Bank was founded by economist Muhammad Yunus as a means of providing small loans to poor individuals. In October 2014, it had over 8.63 million members. It came up as an efficient means of helping the poor by providing them with opportunities to help themselves. More than 97% of Grameen's loan recipients have been women. In 2006, Grameen Bank Bangladesh and Muhammad Yunus were awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace. To sum up, we can say that it is essential that the total formal sector credit should increase so that the dependence on the more expensive informal credit becomes less. Credits at reasonable rates help people to pay their credit without facing any difficulties. This would lead to higher incomes, and many people could then borrow cheaply for a variety of needs. Also, the poor should get a much greater share of formal loans from banks, cooperative societies, etc. Both these steps are important for economic development. This is all about money and credit. Keep watching. Thank you.